Why should you choose a certain agent in Valorant? Team composition is something that will influence your game heavily. It can win or cost you the game before you even load into the map. It's surprisingly easy to make mistakes in this department, and a lot of players don't understand why they should be choosing a certain agent, which makes it very difficult to pick the right agent. That's why in this video, I will be going over some good reasoning that you can implement behind your decisions in the agent selection screen, as well as example team compositions. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to be the first to see more content designed to help you rank up just like this. I will be using objective language in this video too, but there are some very unconventional compositions that can still work even if they aren't the best choice. And although I have specific reasoning, these are my opinions and you are entitled to your own. Hello everyone, my name is Atchax and today we will talk about how to pick the perfect team composition. The first question you have to ask yourself is, what do the agents offer compared to one another? The only difference is abilities. Mechanics are the same across the board. Each ability gives you options. For example, Omen smokes allow you to smoke heaven. These options give you opportunities, such as not looking at heaven when you walk out and focusing on something else, or the opportunity of not being shot from heaven by a sniper with a clear line of sight on you. You can capitalize on these opportunities to gain an advantage, such as map control or a numbers advantage, and leverage these advantages to win the round. You want to create the most diverse number of options and opportunities to keep surprising your opponents, which tends to make capitalizing easier. If you can only do one thing and the opponent counters it round after round, your chances of winning are practically non-existent. Your goal when in the agent selection screen is generally to give yourself access to a diverse set of options which can be used to create opportunities which can be capitalized on to create advantages which can be leveraged to win the round, the accumulation of which wins the game, and winning games is how you rank up. And as you can see from that list, the abilities that you give yourself as part of your team comp are what sets you up for that positive climb towards a win. This brings us into the essentials. The essentials are what I consider to be the essential options you need for success. These are smokes, heals, intel, and flashes. There are many different ways to use these four abilities, but they offer a few basic options that are important. Smokes block line of sight and delay. They can be used to isolate areas or opponents. Heals lessen the value of taking damage. They can be used to gain a more severe advantage after winning a fight. Intel gains map control and knowledge of player movements with little or no risk. And flashes force opponents off angles. You want to be able to do all of these things to some degree. For example, Sage, Cypher, and Omen combined can do all four. I recommend that nobody locks an agent until you have a base that contains all four of the essentials. Once you have the essentials covered, I call the other slots the flex agents. These allow for specific strategies and counter strategies, or add extra strengths or an area of specialization. For example, my friends and I can run a strategy called a blitz, which features 3 agents with flashes while covering the essentials. This gives us a strength in defensive pushing for map control, or frags if the opponent chooses to fight us at that point for some reason. It allows us to very strongly counter players who hold angles, which is almost all players, so it's a very good area to have a strength in. However, we don't have as much intel as we could, which is the trade-off. There will always be trade-offs because you are limited to 5 agents per team. You usually should not be replacing an essential agent with a flex agent unless you are in a large stack and you have a preset game plan. You should also mix attacking and defensive abilities. In many cases, attacking and defensive abilities can have an overlap. It's not important to exactly distinguish which is which, just make sure you have both in good quantities. Sova is a good attacking agent because he can shoot darts ahead of a push. Raze can clear out angles. You want abilities that allow you to take control of an area you don't already have yet, or minimize the risk of taking an area you don't already have yet. On defense, you want to be able to slow down a push. Something else I very strongly recommend is having a defensive bastion or multiple. As more fights occur during a round and you lose defenders, controlling all the areas of the map becomes more and more impossible. you need an ability that offers longer term control to act like a player and reduce the number of actual players necessary to hold an area. With a Bastion on one side, you can stack more actual players towards the other side. Good Bastions include Cypher, Sage, and Viper, but I've also found that Breach and Omen can be quite good at solo holding choke points. Breach is an agent that is great in combination with Cypher traps on B-split, and I like to hold showers on Bind with continuous Omen re-smokes, for example. The number of Bastions you want may be map specific. Haven, for example, will probably demand at least 2 Bastions. It's not difficult at all to cover both attacking and defense. Usually it happens automatically, but just quickly check to make sure you aren't unintentionally weakening your attack or defensive halves with your agent choices. Now that you know why you are choosing certain agents, let's go over some of my favorite example team comps, and I will talk about why I like them so much. The first is Sage, Brim, Cypher, Sova, Phoenix. This is one of my favorites for a host of reasons. You can see it has all the essentials and the flex is towards intel. I love this team comp because it directly counters continuous fakes and rotates by sheer quantity of intel seeking abilities. It allows you to take less risks while also stacking or attacking the right site. Essentially, it helps you be in the right place at the right time, which is a huge advantage. The downside is that this team comp isn't as effective for rushes because those intel seeking abilities take a little bit of time to set up. There will always be trade-offs. It also features 2 defensive bastions while possessing Sova and Phoenix to kick off your attacks. It is very balanced while also being a very strong team comp. The next is Brim, Omen, Sage, Phoenix, Cypher. You'll notice the only change was Sova to Omen. Yet, think about how much this changes your capabilities. Your intel is far less aggressive, but your capacity to make convincing fakes, create confusion, and block off defender line of sight or attacker entry with smokes are all greatly increased. In addition, you've got that extra uncertainty from Omen being able to play those higher elevated angles. Once again, you still have 2 bastions, which is good news for defense. The only problem is that you don't really have anyone to clear out the traps of an opposing Cypher or scout ahead. That's a trade-off you may be happy to make. I personally love this team comp because it has such strong afterplant potential on attack, so it gives me a lot more strategic options where I don't mind sacrificing a player, having a delayed lurker, or taking more risks if it means we take site, because those abilities allow us to have such a strong afterplant. You don't need Brim, Sage, Cypher, and Phoenix to have a good team comp. I wanted to show you the difference one agent could make. But these 4, if you do choose them, are a very good combination because you cover all the essentials and they are very strong choices individually, making them good for teams with some randoms in them. An example of a team comp that breaks this mold would be Omen, Sova, Breach, Raze, Brim. This is a team comp that is designed to take control of all of the areas right outside the sites on both sides of the map relatively quickly and then just constantly apply pressure to both sides. This gives you a couple extra options. Firstly, Sova and Omen don't actually have to be on the side of the map they put their abilities. So if you condition the opponents to believe you are on A by putting abilities on A and playing A 3 rounds in a row, but on round 4 you just put abilities on A and your whole team attacks 2 players on B, you could win that round very easily with a surprise 5-on-2 advantage. Additionally, applying a lot of pressure tends to cause opponents to make mistakes, which will give you opportunities to take advantage of. On top of this, by taking the area outside both sides and applying pressure to both, you force defenders to play both sides so that when you finally commit, the rotates are delayed, making afterplant easier. This sort of strategy only works if everyone is on the same page, so you may want to think twice before trying to run this team comp with randoms. There are a couple guidelines you should follow if you want the best team comp. Number 1 is learn all the agents. You don't have to be an expert. You just need to know how to use their abilities in a competitive match. The nice thing about Valorant agents is that the basic mechanics will remain the same across your characters, unlike Overwatch, so the main thing you have to learn is the abilities. It doesn't take that long. Most of the time, 1 to 3 unrateds will be enough to help you get the feel of a character. There are many reasons you should have a basic understanding of every agent, but for the purposes of team comp, you don't want to limit your options by being unable to play the agent that you need to win. The second is don't auto-lock. This kind of goes in hand with the previous tip. If you auto-lock, you have no idea what the rest of your team is going to pick. You could be stuck with a terrible team comp that doesn't give you any options, or gives you a lot of the same options. This could lock you into a game that isn't very fun because the other team just keeps countering you and you feel like you can't do anything about it. If you're auto-locking because you only know one agent, that's a problem. That's one of the primary signs of a very one-dimensional player, which tends to create a lot of inconsistent performances, preventing that player from ranking up. Being one-dimensional is one of the primary reasons players get stuck in their elo. Jett, Raze, and Reyna are the most common autolocks I see, which is bad because you've already chosen a flex agent before even discussing who you want your flex agents to be or choosing your core agents. You'll definitely want to start early with conversation right in the agent selection screen. If you don't know what to say, a simple "how is everybody doing" usually works. Then you can move into which agents you want. You probably have some idea of the agents and strategy you want, and you might be making the best decision, but the randoms might not see your vision. Right off the bat, you often have to convince someone to go to a certain agent. That's why it can be beneficial to have a few tips that help you convince your team to choose the right agents. Being friendly and starting conversation early is going to make them more open to listening to you. That's a theme. Tip number 1 is that players are much more likely to agree with and run your team comp if they actually like the agent that they are playing. As a result, try to reason out the team comp so that everyone is happy with their selection. Tip number 2 is compromise. Compromising tends to result in people agreeing. If you show them that you are willing to put the team first, other people are more likely to do the same. If you wanted to play Sova but your team really needs a Sage, agree to play Sage provided a teammate plays Brimstone. Or better yet, give them a choice. People like choices. Ask them if they want to play Sage or Brim and offer to choose the other. Also make sure to act in the best interest of the team yourself when choosing a team composition. If you auto-lock Reyna and then ask someone to go Sage, they probably won't listen to you, because why should they if you don't put the team first? Basically, the most effective way to convince someone to choose a certain agent is to genuinely be nice and friendly. Try to make sure they get what they want and be someone they want to be convinced by. Now that you have a picture of what you are trying to create in the agent selection screen, you are much closer to setting up victory before the match even starts. All you have left to do is decide what options and opportunities you want from your abilities, and you are well on your way to having your perfect team comp. What is your favorite team comp, and why do you like the options that combination gives you? Comment down below. I hope you found some value in this video. Best of luck everyone, and have a great day.